Welcome into another edition of the AHSAA Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Brooks, and will soon be joined by head girls basketball coach at Hoover High School, Coach Krystle Johnson, who is fresh off of another state championship at Hoover High School as the Lady Bucks just continue to dominate 7A girls high school basketball, very similar to Hazel Green and how they've dominated 6A. It's been those two programs at the top of the state over the last few years, and when you look at where both those programs are, it doesn't look like that's going to change anytime soon. It's going to take someone coming along and really showing that they can knock them off. You know, Spain Park beat Hoover a couple of years ago when Sarah Ashley Barker was there, and was kind of an upset that year. You know, I mean, Spain Park had a really good team, but I mean, you just look at what Hoover's done. I mean, outside of that year, I think they'd have 4 straight state championships now if it wasn't for that one season. So incredible, 3 out of the last 4. She's on her way down to the awards banquet today. As they're going to be giving out, you know, Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball, Player of the Year awards, you know, different things like that, Coach of the Year, all of that will be given out today. And so she's on her way down to that, and look forward to talking with her, and appreciate her coming on. And then also going to follow that up with Colin Turner from Spain Park High School. Colin was named the Boys Basketball Player of the Year by AL.com in the Birmingham area. He averaged 17 points a game, 9 rebounds a game for a Spain Park team that went to the Final Four. And I've gotten to talk to Colin a pretty good bit over the last 3 years, and making some visits by Spain Park and doing some of the interviews that I do. And so I'm looking forward to having him on, speaking with him. Colin, a really, really good basketball player and also a really good guy as well. And he's going to be moving on and playing at North Georgia next year, and will be continuing his basketball career. And always great to see kids get that opportunity to go and move on and play college sports. So going to talk with Coach Johnson and Colin Turner, and I'm going to send it over to those interviews now. I want to welcome in our next guest here on the AHSAA Podcast, Coach Krystle Johnson from Hoover High School, the head girls basketball coach there at Hoover High School of the Lady Bucks. And Coach Johnson, you just continue to churn out fantastic teams year after year after year. And this year you had another great group that gets back to the state championship, walks away with another blue map. So starting out there, just congratulations to you and to your program on winning another state championship there at Hoover High School.
Thank you so much. We put our girls through a lot, so you know that reward at the end is always icing on the cake, because we kind of run our program like a college program. So it's like good for that they get to get that reward in the end with the blue map and the rings and all of the celebrations. You can just tell every year that they've put a lot into the season. So credit to our girls for being such strong girls and being willing to do everything we ask them to do.
For those that are watching this on YouTube, the video version, Coach Johnson is in the car right now, actually heading down to Montgomery. We have all the awards for basketball tonight. We'll be giving out, you know, Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball in the state, you know, 6A Player of the Year, just all those different things. And so she's on her way down to that event. And Coach Johnson, you've gotten to go to that event a lot now through the years with the type of talent that you've been able to coach at Hoover. How fun is this event for everybody that gets to go be a part of that, and to, you know, for you coaches to go be around all these other coaches that are there and to kind of see people that you don't normally get to see throughout the season?
It's an honor. Obviously they're there to celebrate the players. So as coaches, you're just proud. I actually have 2 that are up for 7A Player of the Year. So amazing careers. Renaya obviously still has a year left, but her and Anaya together have just been amazing for us these last 4 years. So it's definitely an honor. It's a blessing. I mean, it's something that they'll remember, win or lose, just that they were put in that position to where they could be there today.
You look at your group that you had this season, and I think a lot of people felt like coming off of last year that you guys were the favorites to win it, but you also looked at some of the other teams around the state, and there's been other programs that have improved and gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. And how much tougher did that make your road to winning a state championship? The fact that we've seen, you know, girls basketball, especially at the 7A level, rise over the last few seasons.
Oh, it's always tough. We have a target on our back just from being Hoover in general. Hoover High School has put out so many great teams and so many different sports over the years that there's already a target just because we're Hoover. And then we won last year, lost a 4-year starter in Jada Knight and another senior captain in Rachel Hager. So we lost 2 very important seniors that were very important to the culture of our program. And to go into this season, even though we were the favorites, we had 3 people tear their ACLs in the spring/summer. We had a girl that found out she had shin splints that didn't play for about 4 or 5 months. And we had some other injuries that happened. We had a player who decided to transfer to another school. So it was looking like, okay, this is not only going to be hard from, whatever's happening outside, but all from the stuff that's happening inside of our program. But once again, it's just a testament to our girls. It was a rough season. We had to get through a lot of adversity, but I mean, they were all locked in. I think everybody's main focus, despite everything that was going on, was just to win. So even in the injuries, everybody who was rehabbing just wanted to get back to help us in whatever way they could in order for us to hold that blue map up again.
You talked about Anaya Hubbard, Renaya Kelly earlier. That's who you're on the way down to Montgomery to go and support. But how important were the players, Krystle McMillan and also Layla Etchinson, and just them playing their roles and also kind of stepping up and playing bigger roles for this team, especially considering what you just said that y'all had to deal with going into the season?
Oh, very important. Kristen, Layla, Alana, Devin, Lena, like even the people that didn't play a lot in the games that played in practice, everybody played an important role because of the injuries and everything. Everybody kind of understood that next man up mentality. Like the player that transferred was a junior, so we had to pull a freshman post player up, and she understood her role, even though it was mainly in practice. But yeah, all those players came up big. I think, obviously most people's focus is on Anaya and Renaya, but I think they'll find out this season for sure that we got some other good players. And everybody is willing to accept their role. To me, that's what makes us such a good team, is that, everybody was willing to accept their role. They understood they could go somewhere else and average 15 points a game, but in order to stay in this program that's going to prepare them for college and also win championships, they're willing to accept whatever role we ask them to, fulfill.
You said at the beginning of this, you said, hey, we run our program like a college program. And so I know what our girls go through. And that's why, winning at the end of the year, it is such a big reward. When you say that, we run it like a college program, what exactly do you mean? How do you feel like you run your program like a college program and maybe different from some of the way some of the other coaches run their programs in the state?
Well, we have a strength coach that is with us year round, Coach Mike McCoy. He not only helps them physically, but, the mental aspect of it. I think they all understand if they can get through a workout with Mike, then nothing else, everything else is basically easy. Mike played football at Alabama. He has his own company here in Birmingham, and he's been with me since I got to Hoover. And it's been, mentally, our girls are just, you can just see they're tougher than some of the people that we play against. They're also physically tougher than some of the girls we play against, which I definitely attest to us working out with Mike. We do a bunch of other things like shooting wise that I'm not sure if other programs are doing. Don't want to give too many of my secrets away, but we just I basically just run it like the programs that I played in college, and we demand a lot out of them. And the thing is, not all of our players want to play in college, but if they did, they would be prepared. And I think because of their love for each other and Hoover High School and the community, they work hard regardless. We've had players over the year that they knew they didn't want to play in college, but they were still willing to go through those things just to see their reward at the end. And honestly, it's not always blue maps. It's just being with your family, being with your sisters, and the lifetime experiences and the trips and everything. It all goes into it, but it's very much like a college program.
I asked you this when I came in and talked with you and some of your girls last year, but I kind of want to ask again so you can let the people that maybe didn't hear that interview. Now, when you graduated from Hoover and played there, and I always like talking to coaches I like talking to coaches who played at a place and are from there, and then they're back at that place and doing what you're doing right now at Hoover. does it make it more special, the fact that you're doing it at Hoover? Obviously this would be special if you were coaching anywhere and winning like you're winning, but the fact that you're doing it at the program that you played for and that you were a part of, does that make this even more special to you personally?
Absolutely. When we win, I always end up on some picture somewhere crying, and that's because Hoover is a special place to me. Like, it's the school that made me the person that I am. A lot of people don't know this, but my high school coach, Coach Elgin, is actually still working at Hoover, and we're office mates. So just to be able to do these things and then the next day see her and her let me know she's proud of me, it is more special. I love Hoover and everybody knows that. So doing it here it's different. I mean, I coached at Huntsville High and it was special there, but at Hoover it's just different because it's home.
You said earlier, we have a target on our back because we're Hoover, because, just the way that our school is and what we've done in athletics. When you look at not only your program and the success that you've had, but just, Hoover athletics in general, the track program, baseball getting to a state championship last year. We've seen softball there, obviously football, what they've done. The boys team has gotten there to the state championship. What is it about Hoover athletics? Why is the athletics program as a whole just so good at Hoover?
I think a lot of it has to do with our athletic director and his support of our programs. He's one of our biggest fans. I tell people all the time, our athletic director actually is on our huddle. So like if he can't come to a game, he'll watch a game. He gives his input. Same with our assistant athletic directors. It's just like everybody is invested in each program. So, it's not just a job for them. It's a passion for them the same way it's a passion for us. And they're there to support. If they can't support, then they'll make sure that they watch the game. And that's just across the board. Coach Urban, Coach Bridgman, even the athletic secretary, Miss Vicky, she has a locker in our locker room. She comes in, she takes care of the girls. And I just think, it's a family environment. Everybody is invested in season, football, good luck, or whatever it may be. Baseball coaches, Coach Mosley, he always makes sure he supports, brings out his family and his boys. So I think it's just everybody has bought into the fact that, one, we know everybody's against us and everybody wants to beat Hoover in whatever sport it is. And so it's kind of like camaraderie of, it's us against the world. So everybody's bought into that.
One of the things that really stood out to us being at the event this year, is, the first game that you guys played against Davidson, and then even on the Saturday game, which was even more impressive when you look at the past, was the support that you guys had there from the students and from everybody showing up. And it's not a knock, but I mean, there's been some years past where we kind of looked and said, hey, we're a little disappointed in the amount of students that have showed up here for Hoover and all of that. And that had to make y'all feel really good that many people decided to show up, especially on the Saturday game where they could have been doing a lot of other things around Birmingham. And they came out and made a really big impact, I think, on you guys winning that basketball game against Vestavia.
Absolutely. I think it was something that was emphasized at school a little bit more this year. We have the cheerleaders, the Orange Crush. They were on the morning announcements trying to encourage kids to come. And a lot of the coaches were making sure they were telling people, teachers were telling people and advertising the game more. So definitely it was a lot more support. And I mean, if I'm being honest, like a gym. So it's a little different to see the way it is now, but kids do have a lot more going on now with social media and everything. We didn't have all that when I was in high school. So we understand. So for the most part, we love to have the support there. But we kind of operate as if, it's us, we play for each other, and our parents who are always there, they're always supporters. So we loved having the students there this year. It definitely made a difference.
Talk about, the last couple of years. It's been interesting to me that, a few years back, y'all play Hewitt-Trussville for a state championship. You beat them and dominate them. Then it was y'all in Spain Park there for a couple of years when Sarah Ashley Parker was there. And then now, obviously, this past year, you guys match up with Vestavia. And, you've matched up with a lot of Birmingham area schools in the state championship. What do you think that just says about that area and girls basketball in the Birmingham area, especially in that particular football region there with Hewitt-Trussville, Hoover, and Vestavia, and Spain Park, and Oak Mountain, all these different teams that have had really, really good teams?
I think it says a lot about the coaches. I think that Birmingham does a good job of making sure they get good quality coaches for their jobs. You have, Coach Hunter over at Hewitt Trustful, Coach Smelzer at Vestavia, Coach Chase. It's just a lot of good coaches in this area that come in with philosophies. They're also, always trying to learn new things. And some of us even have conversations with each other. And, it's all growing the game in general. The better the coaches are, the better the players can be, the better the programs. So I think for that, it's a testament to the dedication that the coaches around this area. And honestly, I know a lot of coaches throughout the state of Alabama that just dedicate a lot of their time to understanding and learning the game and knowing the game. I mean, hey, I call Coach Miller whenever I have a question about something up at Hazel Green. He's won so many state championships that I know he has a wealth of knowledge, and he's willing to give up that information. And everybody's just kind of, everybody wants to learn, which I think is only going to make the game better. It'll only make the product better, and then it'll make more people want to come watch and support girls basketball in the state.
You look at your last two times at Legacy Arena with when y'all played Spain Park a couple years ago, and then with this game with Vestavia. We talked about y'all student support, but just the crowd in general, to get to play in front of a crowd that big. What do you think that says about basketball in this state, the way that it's growing, and it also just girls basketball too, the fact that we've got that many people showing up to watch, two of the best girls basketball teams in the state play?
I think it says a lot. I mean, obviously it was a number 1 versus number 2 matchup. A lot of talent out there on the court. Vestavia is known to have a great student. Obviously, back in my day, Hoover Vestavia was a huge rivalry, like Alabama Auburn. So I think it also brought out some older Hoover grads that were like, look, we just don't really take kindly to losing to Vestavia. I got a lot of text messages before that game from former teammates and former classmates like, look, y'all don't lose to Vestavia. Because even though our rivalry has switched, for me, it's always going to be Vestavia. So that was huge to see all those people there just supporting girls basketball. And I think, like I said, it's a testament to the programs. Coach Smelzer has done a great job over at Vestavia, and he has some great players, and nobody wants to come watch bad basketball. So the better the product you can put on the court, I think the more people will want to come watch. And that's just a testament to all the coaches and players who and work to make sure that we keep the product on the court just to grow the game.
You said it was number 1 against number 2, Vestavia and Hoover, and Vestavia got y'all one time during the regular season. What was it about them? What did they do really, really well? What gave y'all some issues, and what were some of the adjustments that y'all had to make going into the state championship matchup?
So just from watching the game that we played them and watching some of their recent games, we started to notice some things that they did that we needed to adjust to. Just a little like in-game things that we noticed they were doing more of. And obviously we had to make some adjustments to our game plan. There were some things that even though we won that game at Vestavia, that we weren't satisfied with. And we watched the film, right after the game. And then, as coaches, obviously we were watching, but then we had to focus on our next games. But we did have to keep in mind of what are the things we did in that game? What adjustments does it look like they've made since that game? And then we had to make adjustments for the state championship game based off those two things.
With the way that the state championship game went, what worked for y'all in the state championship game? What did you feel like? What was something that y'all went to a really good amount offensively, defensively, that really worked for y'all in your opinion?
So offensively, I think we knew we had an advantage inside, and that was at all positions. We're bigger than they are, and so we tried to make sure that we went inside as much as possible. Leading up to that game, we had our guards, our post players, anybody who we felt like could create an advantage for us, working on post moves and all sorts of things. We have everybody in our practices always works on shooting. That way, if they were to leave somebody open, just being confident in your shot and knowing that it's going to go in. Defensively, we knew we just had to do a better job in transition, a better job defending the ball, and that the one-on-one defense was one of the issues that got us at Vestavia. And like I said, from watching their games leading up to that game, they were doing a lot of isolation stuff. So we just had to make sure we were keyed in on that in practice, and everybody had to understand you got to be able to guard your man one-on-one, and it's not going to work every time, but we had to make it more difficult for them.
So now with the season wrapping up, we finished Alabama Mississippi All-Star game, and now you have the awards banquet tonight. When does your focus shift towards next year's team, and you start worrying about the summer and getting things ready for that?
My focus shift on March the 6th. So losing a player like Anaya Hubbard, you got to start thinking ahead as soon as possible, because it's just such big shoes to fill. So you got to make sure that you immediately start thinking about it. We got some younger players, even some juniors that we had to make sure we got to start getting them ready. I mean, obviously we won't start working out until after spring break, but as far as actually thinking about it, it was immediately after the game for me.
What is your plan normally in the summer? How many games do you like to try to play? And are you one that likes to play a lot of games, or do you like to practice more and focus on your team more? How do you kind of treat that time period?
It's about half and half. Obviously, whenever you go to a play date, you play like 3-4 games. So you're going to end up playing more games than you have practices. But we live during the summer. We have practice during the summer, and then we have play dates. I think right now we're going to 5 or 6. I'm not sure. I think it's 5. I'm not 100% sure. But we host one on June the 9th, and then we're going to Spain Park the next day. We're going to Athens and Hazel Green. And then the Alabama High School Athletic Association is having a play date this year. So we're going to go to that too. But we try to make sure we just get them as much in-game experience as possible. Since the summer doesn't count for the most part, it's a good time for players to see where they are, see what they need to work on. And you can't do that just practicing all the time. You got to play, and you got to play some good teams, because if not, I think that's what keeps kids motivated, is if you can see yourself against those good teams, stuff that you thought that you were able to do. If maybe it's not as easy as you think, it just makes them want to work harder for the season.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Coach, really, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on and chat with me today. Again, congratulations to you and to your program on another great state championship this season, and doing what you guys did. And it was a great state championship game. That day of games itself was just fantastic. I think only one game wasn't decided by single digits, and it was the Hazel Green game. Every other game was decided by single digits, and everybody had a chance, and it was a lot of fun. So congrats again to you guys, and looking forward to seeing you guys right back there at Legacy Arena again next year.
Thank you so much. We hope to be back there. Go Bucks.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good one.
You too.
I want to welcome in our next guest on the AHSAA podcast, Colin Turner from Spain Park High School, who will here in the next couple months be graduating and moving on to North Georgia to continue his college basketball career, and will be going there. And Colin was also named the Birmingham Area Boys Player of the Year by AL.com. He was an Alabama Mississippi All-Star, and Colin, you averaged almost 17 points per game, almost 9 rebounds per game this season for Spain Park, and had an incredible year. And so first of all, just congratulations to you on that. And obviously you would have wanted to end with the blue map, but from a personal standpoint, you really ended your senior year as well as you could have.
Yeah, I really feel good about what personally I was able to do this season. And still, even though we didn't quite make it how far we wanted to, I'm still really happy with our guys this season.
Kind of start with that. I mean, I know it's not great memories thinking of the last 2 finals, just from a result standpoint, but how fun is it when you think about what y'all are able to accomplish and just getting there, being a part of the finals the last 2 years and doing something that not a lot of high school basketball players around the state get to experience.
Yeah, it's been a crazy experience to be able to do that 2 years. Obviously, like, there's always that thing just in the back of my head saying we could have gone farther, we could have done better, but we did so much better than so many other teams in the whole state. Like, not a lot of guys don't get to do any Final Four. They don't even get to make the playoffs in their high school career. And the fact that I was blessed enough to do it with some of my guys 2 years in a row, it's just an insane feeling. It's a great thing.
At what point does that perspective kind of start to get into your head? Obviously when you first lose, you're just upset about losing, and you think it's the worst thing in the world at the time. At what point does that perspective of we really did a lot more than what a lot of other teams did, and there's a lot of other people that would have killed to have the season that we had? How long does it take for you to start kind of thinking in that way?
I think that feeling really hit me when I played in that Alabama Mississippi game. because being able to play with such like high level guys, and all of those guys are going to play college basketball and they're all really good. But a lot of them didn't get that opportunity, even though they're very good. Most of them didn't. There's only a couple, probably like 3 of them that did. But just those like extremely talented guys that didn't get a chance to do it once, and I got to do it twice. That kind of hit me.
Not only did you get to do it twice, you kind of got to do it in the most unique way. You know, not a lot of guys are going to get to say, hey, we got to do it in the year of COVID where we were at a whole different arena. And then we also got to do it the first year that it was renovated at Legacy Arena, and kind of talk about that perspective. How much more fun was it to be at Legacy Arena this year and for things to be normal compared to last season?
I think being at Legacy Arena, it was almost like a dream it was like a dream because it's an NBA stadium. So that place is just massive. And being able to play with a great crowd in front of all those people is just amazing. And I didn't think it could get better than UAB's Bartow Arena last year, but it did. It was just, that was an even more fun place to play in. Felt like I was on an NBA game.
How did it affect things last year? Students showed up, but they were making everybody sit very separated. And, it wasn't like it was this year where y'all had just a massive, amount of students there and stuff. And so how different did that make the environment with how it was set up last year compared to how they could sit this year and stuff?
It definitely elevated the environment this year because just like even that little bit of space between the students, all of them feed off of each other. So having them just kind of toned it down a little bit, like it was still very fun to have them there. We had a lot of people, but it just took another step up on like the level of this year because they were just there, and we had more people this year. So that was great.
It was y'all and Enterprise that had the overtime game last year, correct?
Yeah. I think it was double overtime.
So meeting back up with them this year, how much did y'all look forward to that? Obviously, y'all had an overtime game. It took extra time to even determine who won last year and stuff. And so did that make the anticipation for playing them again this year even higher?
It definitely did, especially some of our guys that were returning. We had a lot of new players. We only had 3 players this year that played in the game last year, but those other guys were just as hungry to get back at them. And we really wanted that game, but we just lost. We ended up losing to a really good team, but
yeah, they ended up winning the state championship, obviously.
So,
did you watch that game on that Saturday, or was it still like so fresh where it was like, man, I don't know if I can watch this one?
Honestly, I watched the first quarter and a half, and then I couldn't watch it again. I couldn't watch it.
What made Enterprise a state champion team in your opinion? You got to play them 2 years in a row now. You got to see them. I mean, what in your mind made them a team worthy of winning a state championship, and what did they do so well?
I think their combination between insane athleticism and still like a good skill of basketball, because there's a lot of teams who are really athletic that aren't like they aren't good shooting teams. They aren't good like just like basic basketball stuff, but they had both of those things, and I think that's really what made them super good.
What were some of the things that they did that gave y'all issues? Like what were some of the things that y'all couldn't do against them that you normally were able to do against some of the other teams?
I think the biggest thing is the press. We turned it over a ton. And just they put a lot of pressure on us, and they just weren't sure. A lot of our guys just weren't sure how to handle it. We've handled a lot of pressure like that, and we thought we were ready for it, but they have some big dudes, and we just weren't ready for it. The press really killed us.
Is there any one of the things I was wondering about was you guys play in the Birmingham area where a lot of people feel like that area and the Huntsville area are probably the 2 best basketball areas of places, and y'all play teams from that area all the time. Was there any kind of false confidence going into the last 2 years against Enterprise, saying, hey, we know who we've played, we've seen the teams that we've played against, and we don't feel like this group is at the level of, the Hoovers and the, Hewitts and some of the teams that we've played against already this year?
I think there was a little bit of that, because we try not to think of that, and Coach Laps tries to not let us have that in the back of our heads, but it's always there because we're hearing that like Birmingham, Huntsville is always the best areas of basketball. And even though we choose to we try to not disrespect any opponent that we play, there's always something because we don't see them ever. We don't, because Enterprise is so far away from us. We don't ever see them play or anything or hear about them during the season. So I think there definitely was a little bit of that, but we tried not to, but I think it still creeped in.
You kind of said only 3 guys back from last year's team. How much tougher did that make your role of being a leader this year? Only 2 other guys that really had experience to lean on. And so how did that kind of affect things from that standpoint for you this season?
I think at the start of the season, it was a little bit tough because some of those guys just didn't know with different roles and different what they needed to do on this next level of high school basketball. But as it got going, I think it really helped me as a leader to be able to have some of those guys, because some of those guys really bought into listening to what me and then another senior on the team, Josh Harrington, had to say. I think it really helped us, me and him specifically, because those guys wanted to listen. It was able to allow us to lead more and lead better for those younger guys, and especially for next year, I think they'll be really good off.
When you look at what Coach Latch has done there at Spain Park, what is it about him? Now that you've played your whole career with him and everything, what makes him such a special coach?
I think the biggest thing, because there's a ton of reasons I could list off, but I think the biggest reason that he's such a special guy is he cares so much about us being good men as well as being great basketball players. I think that's really hit me. And then it took me a little bit to realize that, but there's just a ton of small things he does that really just like prepares us for real life instead of just basketball.
How does that translate to the game too, though? When he's preparing you for this real life stuff, certain situations and all that, how does that help y'all in a game where, you're facing adversity like you were in the Final Four and being in some of the situations that y'all are in during the season?
I think a lot of it is a lot of respectfulness. I think definitely kind of like not getting upset with some like bad call that the referee made, because we can't control that. We don't want to be playing 5-on-8 if we do something at the refs. And kind of like trying to think of what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I think a lot of respectfulness, and then kind of just that willingness to trust the process of that preparation that we've had, because knowing that we've worked so hard and not getting nervous about something, and trusting the process is something that Coach Latch said a lot. And just knowing that our preparation has prepared us for this and that we're ready for this, whatever comes our way.
We said, even though you didn't pull away with the blue map the last 2 years to get into the finals, you guys were there and Hoover wasn't. Does that make it a little bit more satisfying for you guys at Spain Park that y'all are able to get there and that your biggest rival hadn't been able to?
I think it definitely plays a role. And then seeing some of those guys, like I'm friends with a couple of them, and just being able to have that little edge on them. Yeah. It's a good feeling.
Talk about that rivalry a little bit though, because like you just said, you're friends with some of the guys on the team. So, while there is a big rivalry there, to me, there's always been a respect between Spain Park and Hoover people, because y'all live together, you grew up playing together and stuff. And so how different do you feel like that makes that rivalry where it is super intense, but I don't feel like necessarily a hatred there like you see with some other rivalries?
Yeah, I definitely think, because all those games that we play, no matter the skill level of each team, those games are always good games. And because there's something in like the win for the city. There's always that, like, you always want to do that, like every time we play them in any sport, really. But it is good that I can go as hard as I want on the court and just like battle with those guys, and then I can still be cool with them off the court. I really enjoy that.
We talked about you making the Alabama-Mississippi game. You talked about some of the guys that you played with and how they didn't get to make it to the finals. But what was it like just being there? That the gym that you guys play in is a really cool gym that they have there at Mississippi College, and the way that it's set up and stuff. They have two really nice video screens as well that are in that place. But how cool is it to be just a part of that event, practice with some of the best players around the state, and go and represent the state of Alabama against Mississippi?
It was one of the most fun basketball games I've ever been able to play in. Just having so much talent on one court, even like AAU games, I've never been able to have that much talent, and being able to just, a lot of those guys I've never met before, and I've just kind of seen like highlights of them and just seen games that they've played. But being able to play with them and kind of grow a relationship with some of those guys, that was really fun. Being able to just go out there and just hoop with some of those guys is a really fun experience.
What's the hardest part of going to that and trying to figure out what your role is going to be for that one game that you guys are all playing together?
I I think it definitely was hard, but there was we were kind of able to get a sense of everybody here is good. Everybody here obviously deserves a ton to be here. And even though someone else may play a little bit more than me, I may play a little less than somebody else may score a lot. It's kind of like, well, like these are the best players in the state, and I am one of them as well. So that was kind of what went in my head when I was going to that game.
The girls play first and then the boys play. So from a player standpoint, I've always kind of wondered, like, does the girls game help set the tone for the boys game? You know, like when you guys see the girls win or see them having success, like, does that translate over to some confidence from the boys side?
Yeah, it does, because the girls team won before it, and we kind of went back in the locker room before. It's like we can't lose now. Like they won. It's like we can't go 1-1 for Alabama.
You know, and I think a lot of people have a misconception of when you guys get there, it's like, they just want to be there and be all. From what I've gathered being around the Alabama Mississippi All-Star game, do you guys care about winning and winning for the state of Alabama? And how much did y'all talk about that as a group while you were there?
We talked about it a lot. Like everything was pretty much like, because a big thing we talked about was the record, like in previous Alabama Mississippi games. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think now it may be 17-15.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it talked about, we're like, we can't lose now, because then the season record would be tied up. So this kind of stretched it out a little bit. So that's kind of the whole thing, is we just have to stretch out this, put Alabama back on top, back out, stretched out the lead.
Did you like taking a trip to Mississippi? Like would you have rather gone on the road like y'all did to go play that game and be somewhere different? Or do you wish it would have been here in Alabama where maybe some people could have gotten to the game a little bit easier?
I think having some more of my friends and family at the game definitely would have been nice. But I think there's an experience being able to like have a 4 or 5 hour bus ride with a lot of those guys, kind of there's some weird relationship bond that comes from riding a bus with those guys and staying at a different place with a bunch of people.
What was, like, when you were trying to create these relationships with these guys, what was kind of the first thing that you would always kind of think of, like saying or talking about or, doing to try to get that relationship with, one of your teammates that you had with the Alabama Mississippi game?
Honestly, a lot of the first things that we talked about was next level of college basketball, because each one of these guys is going to go somewhere to play. Even they haven't decided yet. All of them are going to play somewhere. So that was kind of that thing that everyone had in common at some point, is everybody was being recruited somehow. Everybody was doing something with college coaches.
You are going to North Georgia, like I mentioned earlier. Tell me about North Georgia. How did you settle on that place, and what was it about that place that really attracted you to them?
I think the biggest reason that I chose there is they wanted me. I always hear all the time, it's like, go where you wanted. And I took that to heart with that place, because they wanted me before my senior season, before I did so well this season. And then having that on top with, I love all of coaches there. I built a great relationship with all of them. I went on a couple visits there. I really love the players. And then I love the town that it's in. It's in a beautiful place in Georgia. And just all the combination of all those things, it was like, I just can't pass up on this opportunity. I don't want to be the second or third option at some place at the end of my senior season. I'd rather be the first option at some place that I actually like. And
like you just said, you said, hey, they believed in me before I even had this great senior year. I'm sure as you had this great senior year, you had some other schools starting to hit you up and talk to you. And was there kind of a little bit of, nah, man, like I had this place that they believed in me before I showed you all this type of stuff. And so I'm going to show them the loyalty that they kind of showed me.
Yeah, that's almost been like exactly my thought process with some of these places. It's like, well, if you really thought I was good, you didn't have to wait for me. You didn't have to wait for me to show you. You should have already just known.
The transfer portal has become a big thing in college sports. And when you're picking schools, how much more difficult did that make, situations like where you're talking to some of the higher colleges and stuff that, they're having to sit around and kind of wait for, or we got to wait and see if we're getting this guy, or we got to wait and see if this guy's leaving, or, how did that kind of change some of the conversations that you had with some of the coaches?
I think it changed. It changed a lot, because there are some coaches that they were waiting and they either wouldn't talk to me that much, or some coaches would talk to me a lot more because of it. Because it really makes sense because why a coach would want, instead of some 18-year-old that's coming out of high school, they'd want a 20-year-old who's had 2 years of college basketball experience. And I think that kind of that hurt a little bit. That hurt my recruiting a little bit. But like inevitably, it really didn't. There are some schools, North Georgia, they don't want a ton of transfers. They kind of want to build up some of the guys in the program. And I respected that. I understand the transfers, but I respected that too. And I think that was another reason that I ended up choosing them.
Where do you feel like you're going to have to improve the most as a player now to be successful at the college basketball level?
I think my outside scoring ability and then some of my lateral quickness. I definitely think those are some of my places that I really need to excel in this summer. I've already kind of working on some of it a little bit already, but just having those guys on that next level, it's going to be a lot different. And I know it's going to be a lot different.
Have you talked with your coaches or anything about like how much weight you're wanting to put on, how much weight they want you to put on and things like that when you get there?
I haven't talked to them specifically, but I've already made a goal for myself is I'm around in between 225, 230 right now. And before I get there, I want to shoot to get around 235 or even higher if I can. That's what I'm shooting for right now.
Where do you feel like that can help you the most? You know, adding that amount of muscle weight and things like that. Where do you think that can help your game and allow you to be successful at the college level?
I think that'll help everything defensively, rebounding, offensively. I think because those guys are just they're men. They're a lot bigger dudes, and being able to compete with them more and having more muscle on myself will help me in a multitude of ways.
Was there anybody from the Alabama Mississippi game that stood out to you that was maybe a surprise? Like, you know, I'm sure you checked out the roster beforehand. You probably went, you know, I know this guy, I don't know this guy. And, you know, was there anybody that stood out to you where you went, you know, I didn't realize that guy was that good. I'd heard about him, but, you know, until I saw him, I didn't realize he was that good.
I think Barry Dunning was kind of the guy who hit me that, yeah, he's really that good because he's going to Arkansas. And I've seen that, and I've kind of seen him play before. I haven't really. But seeing him and just because he's a really good teammate too. He's not just a great player. He's a great teammate to have on your team. And being able to be around him and to see that, like, yeah, he's actually like this good. He's ranked in number one in all like the different rankings and websites and whatever. And being able to see him and play with him, it's like, yeah, that guy, he's like that.
What do you feel like he does really well? I mean, you know, obviously he was just named Gatorade Boys Basketball Player of the Year for the second straight year in the state of Alabama. What does he do well in your mind? And what were some of the things you saw him do where you went, you know, hey, I'm going to start working on that and trying to do a little bit more of that type of stuff?
I think a lot of it comes from he's really good at attacking the basket, which his ability to attack the basket so well offensively sets up his ability he has a good pull-up game too. And when people are trying to honor his attacking the basket, he can just pull up and score right over them. I think that's probably one of his better things in my mind. I think it is.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of, I watched him against Benjamin Russell. He had 25 and 25 in that game against Benjamin Russell. So, you know, and then he followed that. I think he had like 25 and 17 against Huffman in the semifinal game. So, you know, he's obviously a really good player, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do at Arkansas. And I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to do at North Georgia, man. You know, I've enjoyed getting to know you over the last couple of years, coming by Spain Park, talking with you, talking with Coach Latch, and visiting that program. And, you know, congratulations to you on being named the Boys Basketball Player of the Year in the Birmingham area. You earned it with what you did this season, and congrats on a fantastic high school career. Even though I know you would have liked to have gotten that blue mat, but like you said earlier, you got to do something that a lot of other kids in the state would kill to do, which is be a part of two finals and play at the biggest stage that you can play in this state. So congrats to you, Colin, on what you were able to accomplish, and I wish you nothing but luck as you move on to North Georgia. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on, man, and look forward to seeing how things go for you. Yeah, thank you. That's going to wrap things up today for the AHSAA podcast. I want to thank Coach Johnson and Colin Turner for taking time to come on. I know it's spring break for the Hoover school system, and so both Coach Johnson at Hoover and Colin from Spain Park taking time out of their spring break to come on and join me and chat with me today. You know, the guests and who we have on here, they make the show. I look forward to each week having different people on and chatting with people. And, look, if you listen to this every single week, hit me up on social media. Let me know somebody you want to hear, somebody that you think is deserving of getting on here, a coach, a player, a former player, a media member. I mean, whoever. I'm trying to talk to anybody associated with high school sports in the state of Alabama, and, just promote the AHSAA and all of these kids and what they do. So I've enjoyed this. This is episode 4 today, and we'll be back next week. And as I've mentioned before, every Tuesday, every Friday, we're going to be releasing episodes. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple. It'll be on YouTube, other places that you can listen to podcasts as well. YouTube is a video version. It's a Zoom setup. So, you'll see 2 of us on the screen and then talking the whole time if you prefer watching. I know some people like watching conversations more than listening, but, we did this because, I did the interviews, do them on Facebook, and those are great. But this now allows you to be in your car and listen to, me talking with somebody, or not have to just sit on Facebook the whole time and watch Facebook videos. You can now sit there and listen to it and do other things on your phone, or do other things during the day, or be driving, whatever it is. So we're hoping to continue to grow this and continue to have great guests on and great people on, and look forward to being back next week with episode 5, as we'll drop that on Tuesday here on the AHSAA podcast.